Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give people a moment to get into the room, the Zoom space. And I'm Suzanne Del Gizzo, as many of you probably know, since I do a lot of these webinars for us. And I'm here today to introduce the Toronto team and President Verna Kale, a new president of the Hemingway Society, so they can preview the Toronto conference for you. You can get a sense of what to expect. Um, the most important thing to know right now is that you are in a webinar format Zoom. So you can see and hear us, but we can't see or hear you. You can interact with us though through reactions using the Q&A. And for those of you who get this joke, the chat is working. There was an incident at the Hemingway Holidays with Hemingway party where the chat didn't work. I think 2 years on the trot. So I have repented my ways and the chat is working. And in fact, if any of you kind people would like to chat to us, so because I can't see anybody, I just want to make sure everybody is really in the room. So does anybody want to say hi in the chat? That would be great. Nobody's saying
Hey
hi.
kids. Hey.
Oh, yay. There we are. Okay. Fantastic.
I'm
I
there.
always get, I have these, Verna and I were talking about nightmares before we came on. I always have these nightmares that I'm having a webinar and nobody's actually in the room. Just talking to myself. Anyway, without further ado, let me introduce President Verna Kale. Verna, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As Suzanne said, this is a webinar about the 21st International Biennial Hemingway Conference happening this summer in Toronto, Canada, July 20th to the 25th. And we are really looking forward to having this event. And the webinar today is designed to give you a little bit of a preview of that and also to field any questions that you might have. As Suzanne mentioned, you are not visible or audible, but this webinar will be posted online after it's done. And so hopefully it'll be an informative thing that you can return to rewatch it, or hello to those of you joining us after the fact. Today's program, we're going to have several panelists, and I want to go ahead and introduce them now. Our first presenters are Irina Gamel and Chris Tarantino, and they are our wonderful Toronto conference planning team. Not the entire team, but they are here representing the team today. They have been working tirelessly to make this an awesome conference, and they are going to share a little bit about the program with everyone. Then we're going to hear from Deborah Modelmog, who is on the Hemingway Society board. She's our vice president, and she's going to share with you some information about a planned Sun Also Rises centennial celebration, so that will be fun. And then we're going to hear from Sharon Hamilton and John Hargrove. Sharon is on our board, and I know John's name sounds familiar to you as well. He's a frequent contributor to the Hemingway Society blog, and they're going to share some information about Toronto, the city, and some of the wonderful things that you can do there during the conference. And then at the end of the program, we're going to have a Q&A. So anyone in the audience there, you can just drop your questions into the chat, and we're going to try and get to as many of those as possible and answer any specific questions you have about the program. But I'm going to go ahead and not waste any time and hand things over to Irina and Chris.
Thank you so much. And we'll just get our slides up so that we can get going. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for the introduction, Verna. And on behalf of the entire team here at Toronto Metropolitan University, it's a real great pleasure to be here and to introduce the Hemingway in Toronto conference scheduled for July 20th to 25th, as Verna already mentioned. And before I turn to logistics, a brief word about the scale of this year's conference. We are expecting approximately 250 attendees, that is including their guests and so on, with about 57 sessions and participants from at least 17 countries around the world. So it's an international gathering and a lively one, judging from the papers that we've seen, and we hope that you will be a part of this very important event. So let me begin with accommodations. Our main conference hotel is the Chelsea, where sessions will take place. It's centrally located, just a short walk from our Modern Literature and Culture Research Center, our Hemingway headquarters, as we now call it, at 415 Yonge Street, so just around the corner. We've secured a special conference room rate for participants at 259 Canadian dollars per night, or 189 US if you do this purchase today plus taxes. This comes with both single and double occupancy options, and the discounted rate applies from July 19th to 26th, which allows some flexibility if you wish to arrive earlier or stay a little bit longer. Booking is straightforward using the group code shown here. The deadline for room booking is June 26th, so please put this in your calendars. Because the conference rate after that is no longer guaranteed and will most definitely go up. So early booking is important. And in the next slide, you'll see the Mountbatten room, where we will welcome you for the opening reception. So we look forward to that celebration. For students, we are very pleased to offer 30 subsidized rooms at Toronto Metropolitan University's International Living and Learning Center. Again, that's just about 8 to 10 minutes walk from the hotel. These are available at 115 Canadian dollars per night. So if you make the purchase today at about $89 US plus tax, again for single or double occupancy options. The booking window is the same, July 19th to 26th, but the deadline is earlier. You need to book by May the 19th. But what truly defines this conference is not logistics. It's the work that you bring to it. We are excited to share several ongoing and emerging projects that will be discussed at this conference. For example, there will be strong focus on new archival work, including developments in the Hemingway's Letters Project. We'll hear about the letters in Volume 7 from 1936 to 1940, as well as the late letters from 1957 to 1961. We are also offering a creative writing workshop inspired by Hemingway's letters, led by Kira Compton. This workshop invites participants to engage directly with Hemingway's voice, not just analytically, but creatively. Other panels highlight Hemingway and sport. These sessions bring fresh attention to the cultural and historical context of the embodied, the athletic dimensions that we so love in Hemingway's writing. For example, you'll hear about Toronto's own Handlands Point Stadium, once the city's premier baseball venue. It's located on Toronto Island, today better known for other reasons, but still a fascinating historical site, and one we hope some of you will visit during this conference. We are also featuring what I would call research with a sense of intrigue or a sense of mystery. One session revisits the long unsolved Hemingway heist, the 1993 theft of the correspondence between Hemingway and Morley Callahan related to their famous 1929 boxing match. This panel brings together scholars, journalists from the Toronto Star, and documentary producers who will share new findings and preview a documentary project they are working to launch beyond an existing trailer. Alongside these discoveries, the conference opens up new directions in Hemingway studies. One of these is Hemingway and fashion, still an emerging field, but one that opens new ways to think about style, identity, and modernity. While Hemingway is not usually discussed as a man of fashion, his carefully constructed, iconic public image of masculinity requires investigation. And the presence of figures like Pauline Pfeiffer invite us to rethink his relationship to style. Another new direction is Hemingway and digital creativity. This includes hands-on sessions for research and where participants can explore new tools, such as building digital platforms for research, or even experimenting with 3D representations of literary material. These sessions are designed to spark collaboration that continues beyond the conference itself. And we also have sessions that connect Hemingway to Canadian contexts and Canadian narratives. For example, you'll hear about the dramatic prison escape of Red Ryan from Kingston Penitentiary, a story Hemingway was assigned to cover in 1923 for the Toronto Star, and an event with an afterlife in fiction. These intersections remind us how deeply Hemingway's work is tied to place, movement, and lived experience. So let me close by highlighting a few of our special events without stealing any of the thunder of the others, which are an important part of this conference experience. We will host a graduate student lunch at Toronto Metropolitan University, an informal opportunity for students to meet Hemingway Society board members and build new connections. And of course, we will celebrate Hemingway's birthday on July the 21st, a long-standing tradition in the Society. This year's celebration includes a banquet and a talk by Philip Green entitled, "You Don't Want to Mix Emotions Up with a Wine Like That, a cocktail history of The Sun Also Rises." It's a ticketed event on Tuesday, July the 21st, 6 p.m. So to conclude, this conference brings together new research, new directions, creative experimentations, and community. But most important, it depends on you, the participants, the guests, and we hope you will join us in Toronto this July. To that end, we ask that you register now to take advantage of the early bird registration, which ends on March 30th. And also book your accommodations while the special conference rates are available for students until May 19. And for your regular Chelsea room, it is June the 26th. Thank you, and I look forward to welcoming you all in Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. I was having a hard time unmuting myself there. I really appreciate all of your work in putting this conference together. And I can just tell everyone that, if you look at that draft program that the organizers sent out the other day, there is even so much more than what Irina just described to us. It really is shaping up to be a wonderful conference. And I want to now turn things over to Deborah, who's going to talk a little bit more in depth about one of those special events. This is a special time. We are 100 years, actually a little over 100 years from some of the key moments in modernism. And so it's definitely time to acknowledge those events, especially, what is a lot of people's favorite Hemingway novel, The Sun Also Rises. So Deborah, please take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for giving me a little bit of time here to talk about this special event. I want to thank Irina and Chris, whom I've worked with on this event for several months now. And I think it's shaping up to be a really exciting event, in part because of their help. So this is a special event for the centenary anniversary of Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises. It's going to be held on Wednesday, July 22nd from 5:30 to 7:30. So that's after the panels on that day. All you have to do is walk out the door of the conference hotel and walk about 7 minutes down to the Jazz Bistro, which is right down from the hotel, about 0.3 miles. So it's a very close walk. The event itself will be held on the third floor terrace of the Jazz Bistro, which is reserved for private parties. It also has access to the rooftop patio, which we are going to have access to. So there will be an elevator or stairs to take you to the third floor and then also up to the rooftop. There is also wheelchair accessible restrooms, and there is wheelchair accessible seating. So if you need those accommodations, you should be able to easily access the party. And I hope everybody will feel welcome to come. It's open to registered conference attendees, their guests, and we can probably even squeeze in a few well-behaved children. So let us know if that's your plan. So I'm hosting this event. So that means that you get free admission plus one free drink. So everybody will need to register, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but you'll have drink tickets, and once those run out, there will be a cash bar available. We're going to have specialty drinks for the evening, but of course, anything else goes. It's a fully staffed bar, fully stocked bar, so you can order anything that you want. But the specialty drinks will be the Lady Brett Ashley, which is a smoky rum drink. This is a standard at the Jazz Bistro, but they have allowed us to rename it for the evening as the Lady Brett Ashley, which seems appropriate since it has a smoky element to it. We also have a mocktail, which is the Virgin Jack Rose, which is composed of apple cider, lemon juice, grenadine, and lemon twist. So you should have some good options there if you want to take up one of the opportunities for the featured drinks, but also, as I said, other drinks will be available as you wish. So Suzanne, you can change the slide. Oh, and then there will also be free appetizers with vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free options. We'll also have music by a jazz trio with some selections from the 1920s. I'm trying to work in advance with this trio and see if maybe they can play what we think is the song that was playing when Jake and Brett go to Zelly's Royal Box nightclub, and Brett talks to the drummer who sings about the two-timing lover. We think we know what that song is, and I'm hoping that we can get the jazz trio to play that song. But if they can't, they're going to play some wonderful music, and they have some selections from the 1920s. There will also be a short program. The main remarks will be made by Jake Gerald Kennedy, Boyd Professor of English Emeritus at Louisiana State University. The title of his short talk will be A Ringside Seat at the War, Intimations of the Sun Also Rises in Our Time. Irina and I will also make a few remarks during this time period, and then we'll have a toast by Hemingway Society President Verna Cale. That will be followed by cake and champagne. And also at the event, we hope to showcase the new editions of The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway Society members. There's about 7 of them now, and I'll show you a picture of those in just a minute. But we're going to, pay attention to The Sun Also Rises. It was published October 22nd, 1926. So we're almost at the exact 100-year mark for that novel, and it deserves some attention from us and some special accolades. And so we're going to spend some time just thinking about that novel and how it launched Hemingway's career and what it's meant in our world since then. So the next steps are you to look for an email. There will be an email with kind of add-on events for the conference. Please register for this event. As I said, it's a free event, but we need a head count so that we can get a sense of how much food and drink we need to order. If you have any questions, you can ask them at the end of this webinar, but you can also email me at dmodelmog@unr.edu. And so then I'm going to show you just a couple of pictures. If Suzanne, yep, there we go, of the venue itself. The first picture is from the first floor. This is one of the stages of the Jazz Bistro and just has some musical instruments so you can get the kind of in the mood for jazz. Then there's the outdoor picture, so you know where you're going. So when you see the lights and the color of the building, that's the Jazz Bistro. And then the third picture is from the third floor. It's not the entire third floor, but it shows you this kind of moody atmosphere that we're going to get to enjoy. And there's a stage on that floor too, where the jazz band will be playing, but also where we'll do our program. And then, as I said, there's access to the rooftop patio, which is outdoors. So you get to enjoy the outdoor experience of Toronto and this wonderful venue. And then finally, the last slide is just a quick look at the 7 editions of The Sun Also Rises that have either come out or will come out soon. And very exciting work. All of them do something different and appeal to different audiences. And so we want to feature those. So we'll either have copies of those books or flyers for those books. You can also see those at the book exhibit at the conference hotel, but we want to bring these books down and make a special place for them at the Jazz Bistro event so that you can kind of get a sense of all the great work that's being done on the Sun Also, editing The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway Society members. So I hope to see you there. I hope you all will sign up. It should be a lot of fun. And thanks again to Irina and Chris for helping me to set this up.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And now we are going to hear from Sharon and John. We're actually going to hear from Sharon. John has some audio issues, but he is going to be showing the slides that Sharon and John have put together to talk a little bit about what awaits us in our host city of Toronto.
We've got the presentation up, but it looks like it's not going into slide view.
I can share it.
Yeah,
if you
maybe
stop
Suzanne, just pull it up. Yeah, I don't know why it's not responding. So does John have to stop sharing? There we go. And I'll just tell you when to move to the next one.
Sorry, it's just going to be 1 second because I closed it, but now I have it open again, and let me get it ready.
While you guys are getting the presentation ready, I'm going to go ahead and answer a question that cropped up in the chat earlier. Someone asked about the ball game. We do have, it's sort of an unofficial conference event happening on July the 19th, the day before the conference starts. If you happen to be in town, the Chicago White Sox, Hemingway's one of his favorite childhood teams, is playing the Toronto Blue Jays who, if you're a baseball fan, then you know that they almost made it to be World Series champions last year. So it's an awesome team. And we are excited to have organized a group rate to go to the baseball game. And when the information goes out about the add-on events for the Penn Hemingway fundraiser / birthday celebration that Irina was talking about, and the Jazz Bistro celebration that Deborah was talking about, we are also going to include information about how to get a baseball ticket. And those tickets are being sold through Ticketmaster. So there are some steps that you have to take, and you will have to have a Ticketmaster account in order to receive your tickets. We have organized a group block of tickets. So what you will do is you will buy your baseball tickets via our Hemingway Society website, and you will put in your email address. And then in June, or in July, we will release the ticket to you via Ticketmaster. So you'll have to use your email address, receive an email from Ticketmaster, sign into Ticketmaster, have a Ticketmaster account on your phone, and load your ticket to your phone. That sounds terribly complicated. That is the only way to buy baseball tickets today. There's no getting around it. You cannot print out the email and bring it to the stadium. So we're going to include very clear instructions when you buy that. But once you get past the hard part, we are going to be watching that baseball game together on July 19th in a group at Rogers Center. So it should be fun. But keep an eye on your email for more information about that. It looks like the presentation is up and running now. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and turn it over to Sharon.
Great. Thank you very much, Verna. Taken in 1919, these aerial photos are a glimpse into the past of what Toronto, Ontario looked like when Ernest Hemingway first arrived in 1920. In this first slide, you can easily make out the spire of what is now the old City Hall in Toronto. This is where Ernest would often go to collect news of the day, after Ernest had finally landed a gig writing for one of the 5 major newspapers in circulation within the city, the Toronto Star. In this next slide, so the next slide, Suzanne, you can see the business district where the Toronto Star building in which Ernest used to work once stood. It was a 4-story structure built in 1878 that was itself, even though it sported the largest and most modern printing plant in all of Canada at the time, already outliving its usefulness by the time Hemingway walked through its doors.
Slide 3.
Today, City Hall still stands, but is mostly inaccessible to visitors except on special occasions, and the Toronto Star building of 20-something Hemingway is long gone. For the most part, it seems at first glance that the Toronto Hemingway knew is too long gone, but that's not quite true. For tonight's presentation, we have chosen 7 locales meaningful to Hemingway's life that still exist today, and are places you can easily visit. 5 of which you can actually go inside and do stuff. And we are thrilled to share with you a little story behind each one. But first, we need to explain why Toronto's historic Union Station, which one would expect to be an obvious Hemingway location, is not on this list.
Slide 4.
Completed in 1920, Toronto's iconic Union Station along Front Street has provided passengers rail travel in and out of the city to all parts of Canada and the United States, but Hemingway never used it. The reason for this is that even though the station was completed in 1920, it didn't open until 1927 because there were no tracks leading in and out of it due to a fight between the city and the railways over the approach of the rails.
Slide 5.
Instead, Hemingway traveled through what was then the second Union Station, operating from 1878 to 1927. Located just to the west of the current station along the south side of Station Street, the grand complex's sprawling design made it not only North America's most expensive train station to operate, but also the most inconvenient to travel through. In short, everyone hated it, and passengers were not thrilled to have to bypass the brand new station, which was sitting right there, yet sitting empty for a further 7 years after its construction because of some squabble. So even though Hemingway most definitely saw the current Union Station in both 1920 and 1923, he never got the chance to use it. Once the new Union Station finally opened, demolition came quickly and thankfully to the station Hemingway knew so very well, with the final building of the complex being torn down in 1931.
Slide 6.
An interesting fact is that part of the station still lives on in the town of Huntsville, Ontario, where the clock faces from its center tower are installed in the Huntsville Town Hall.
Slide 7.
On now to the train station that Hemingway did use that still exists. Located at 10 Scrivener Square on the east side of Yonge Street in Toronto's Rosedale neighborhood was North Toronto Station, also known as Yonge Street Station. The first building in Toronto to be constructed of a type of limestone minted in Manitoba called Tyndall stone, which had a distinct texture due to it teeming with fossils. North Toronto Station opened in 1916. Its sole purpose was to augment travel through the more cumbersome Second Union Station, lying to the south, and provide better railway service into and out of the city for smaller towns.
Slide 8.
When Ernest and his first wife Hadley arrived in Toronto the morning of September 6, 1923, having departed from Montreal the night before, they came in not at Union Station, but instead at North Toronto Station. When the new Union Station finally opened, travel through North Toronto Station plummeted. Its last paying passengers boarded their train in September 1930, and a retailer quickly moved into the location. 9 years later, the station did reopen one last time for 2 special passengers, King George VI and his consort Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, upon their arrival to Toronto for their first visit.
Slide 9.
Today, with freight trains still running the rails behind it, the old North Toronto Station has been restored as close as possible to its previous appearance and is now the most elegant liquor store in all of Ontario. But before Hemingway and Hadley came to live in Toronto, Ernest's first home in Canada was 3 years earlier, at the mansion of Ralph and Harriet Conable, located at 153 Lyndhurst Avenue. Hailing from Petoskey, Michigan, the Conables had enticed Ernest to come stay in their Toronto home as a paid companion to their son Ralph Jr., while they and their daughter Dorothy went to Palm Springs, Florida. Living in the house from mid-January to mid-May 1920, it was here that Ernest not only met new friends and the connections that would be instrumental in introducing him at the offices of the Toronto Star, but was where he wrote his initial stories for the Star. These articles marked the first official bylines and a transition into a professional writer, leading to a gig with the Toronto Star Weekly, and eventually pay as the Star's foreign correspondent in Europe. It was also under the Conable's roof where he wrote an early short story titled The Ash Heels Tendon, first published in Peter Griffin's biography of Hemingway titled Along with Youth. The story is mostly awful, but it shows signs of Hemingway finding maturity as a writer. Most interestingly, in the story, Hemingway mentions Australian heavyweight boxer Peter Jackson, a name Ernest himself would later use as a pen name while working again in Canada for the Star during 1923.
Slide 11.
Later, the Conable Mansion played another important role in Ernest's life when he came back to Canada with Hadley. Because he worked long hours and was frequently out of town on assignments, Ernest found it hard to visit the Conables often. So it was a special treat for him when he and Hadley had Christmas dinner of 1923 there as part of the family. But for a very pregnant Hadley, with Ernest mostly away, the Conable home became a refuge during her moments of loneliness, allowing Mrs. Conable to fuss about over her. So it comes as no surprise that when, on October 9th, after beginning to feel ill, Hadley had called up Mrs. Conable and was immediately invited over, as the evening wore on, it became apparent she was going into labor, and Mrs. Conable quickly delivered her to Wellesley Hospital. 2 hours later, after midnight, Ernest's first son, John Hadley Nicanor Hemingway, was born.
Slide 12.
Although Ernest's first home in Canada was the Conable Mansion, his and Hadley's first home in Canada together was the Selby Hotel, located on Sherbourne Street. Built in 1883 as a mansion for Charles Horace Gooderham, heir of Toronto's own Gooderham and Worts whiskey fortune, after Gooderham's death, it briefly served as Branksome Hall, an elite girls' school, until around 1913 when it was transformed into a hotel with an annex added to the back side. During the summer of 1923, Ernest and Hadley decided it would be best to travel from Paris to Toronto to live, and for Ernest to take on a full-time job as a staff reporter at the Toronto Daily Star. Plus, Ernest wanted Hadley to have their child in Toronto, which had far superior health care when it came to delivering a baby. Arriving in the city on the morning of September 6th, they immediately took up residence in the relatively inexpensive Selby Hotel until they could find a more permanent living space.
Slide 13.
Over the years, the building has repeatedly been given new life and taken on new personas. By the 1940s, the downstairs area had become a popular sports bar called the Skyway, and later hosted another popular bar called the Men's Beverage Lounge. In the 1980s, the location became the hub for Toronto's gay community when it became a dance club called Boots.
Slide 14.
Today, not only has the building been painstakingly restored to its original Victorian splendor and operates as the French fare bistro Maison Selby, it also sits roughly 100 feet to the northeast of its original location from when Hemingway lived there due to redevelopment of the entire area.
Slide 15.
And although it's often repeated that Hemingway wrote parts of A Farewell to Arms here, keep in mind whenever you hear that Hemingway's World War I novel was published 6 years later and 4 books later after having lived here.
Slide 16.
6 days after moving into the Selby, Ernest and Hadley signed lease papers at a recently built apartment complex on Bathurst Street called Cedar Vale Mansions. Their lease for Suite 19 at a rate of $85 per month was to take effect on October 1st and would last for 1 year. Built at the end of World War I, there is a thought that the building's accommodations were anything but mansion-like. Hemingway's unit has been described by many over the years as having been only one room and incredibly tiny, including by Hemingway himself, who wrote in an unpublished sketch about how at least the balcony gave it a feeling of space.
Slide 17.
In reality, it was actually multi-roomed, and it was big enough to hold all their furniture, including a piano, and accommodate the daily help of a nanny for Bumby from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the building was described in a 1926 article about its sale as being one of the most up-to-date and beautiful apartment houses in the district. With Ernest being out of town at the time, Hadley was left to move in by herself with the help of friends on September 29, 1923. In a letter written to Ernest's parents a few days beforehand, she made clear how much she dreaded the idea of trying to move the heavy furniture on her own, because a cleaning woman and a young girl would not be of much help, but then joked that the janitor might, despite his appearance, be a genius at unpacking in disguise.
Slide 18.
Today, the building is a condo known as the Hemingway, named for its once famous tenant. Speaking of renamed buildings, the building located at 279 Yonge Street had been since 1978, up until 2017, the location of North America's first hard rock cafe.
Slide 19.
Before that, it was Toronto's famous Friars Tavern, which was originally opened as a jazz venue that hosted such greats as Dizzy Gillespie and Thelonious Monk. Later, when Friars became more rock and roll, it was the catalyst for what Time magazine deemed the most decisive moment in rock history, when Bob Dylan went to Friars to see Levin and the Hawks, soon to be known as the band, and asked them to rehearse with him.
Slide 20.
But before all this, the building was Child's Restaurant, a favorite lunch spot and hangout for many Toronto Star employees, including Mary Lowry, Greg Clark, Jimmy Freeze, and Ernest Hemingway. Constructed in 1918 and designed by the chain's New York architect, the building's bottom floor was the eatery, and the top floor housed Carey's Billiards and bowling. Child's eventually closed in 1963, beginning the building's long history of repurposing. Today it is a Shoppers Drug Mart with a tribute to its days as Friars on the second floor.
Slide 21.
Another famous music venue is the all-purpose Massey Hall, still in operation today. Gifted to Toronto by the Massey family, which includes Hollywood's Raymond Massey, and built on the Massey manufacturing fortune, the hall was opened in 1894. Specially designed to have outstanding acoustics, it was originally capable of housing 3,500 patrons. Hemingway's acquaintanceship with Massey Hall ran through both 1920 and 1923.
Slide 22.
In 1920, he attended a couple of boxing matches held there, including one famous occasion in which Hemingway was at the same fight as then Toronto's mayor, Tommy Church. Most papers around town had it in for Church, and Hemingway quickly jumped on board. His story about Toronto's sporting mayor was Ernest's third article to be published by the Toronto Star and his second signed article. Later in October 1923, not only did Hemingway interview F.E. Smith, the Earl of Birkenhead, during his Toronto visit, but heard Lord Birkenhead give a talk at Massey Hall.
Slide 23.
And finally, in December 1923, Hemingway took notes and interviewed contestants at Massey Hall for the International Beauty Contest, held on December 21st, with the idea of writing an article. Whether he ever wrote and published this article is still unknown, but if he did so, it was never published in the Toronto Star.
Slide 24.
Finally, we close on one other famous music venue with a Hemingway connection that is still in operation today. The Royal Alexandra Theatre. Located on King Street, west of where the Toronto Star building used to stand, the Royal Alex, as it is often called, opened in 1907 and is today the oldest continuously operating legitimate theatre in North America. Built to put Toronto on the map, culturally, its very first performance on August 26, 1907, was a pantomime that had a cast of 66 individuals. It quickly became Toronto's premier playhouse. For Hemingway's experience, though, it was here on April 17, 1920, with his love of music and opera, where he attended a double billing of the operas Cavaliera Rusticana and Pagliacci.
Slide 25.
By the 1940s, though, its business started to decline against competition from movie theaters and radio programs. As the decline continued throughout the 1950s, further fueled by competition from television, it looked more likely the venue would close. In 1962, it was put up for sale with the plan of demolishing it to create a parking lot. Instead, it was given a new life under the ownership of Ed Mirvish Enterprises and is now one of a string of Mirvish theaters staging Broadway and pre-Broadway shows in Toronto.
Slide 26.
Today, with the outside relatively unchanged, much of the Royal Alexandra's inner appearance has been renovated to as close as its original appearance as possible, even revealing its original crushed velvet wallpapering in many areas. Thank you for giving us a listen tonight. We hope you enjoy your time in Toronto during the conference and can give some of these locations a visit.
Thank you so much, Sharon and John. I'm really looking forward to visiting some of those places, and I like knowing about some of the places that we can no longer see, but we can kind of imagine, the different layers of history and the vibrant city that Toronto is. I think we're really going to have a good time.
Verna, just a quick note.
yeah.
We put the list of the locations featured in the PowerPoint in the chat for everyone. So, and we'll include that in the YouTube that we post as well. So,
Thank you. All right, so we have some time for Q&A. And so if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A or you can just drop them in the chat and we will try to get to all of them. We've already had a couple get posted, so I wanted to turn to those. Someone had asked about the baseball game, which I already gave you a little bit of info about that. Someone also asked if there was going to be a link to the draft program, and I see that Chris responded in the chat that you can contact the organizers directly via email, and they will send you that draft. And then again, the conference organizers' email is Hemingway2026 at torontomu.ca. So you'll be able to reach out to them directly. At some point, that program will be online, but right now, it is almost finished. It is not in its final form, so that's why it is not yet available online. But it is very nearly complete. And I did just want to bring up one point as someone who has in the past organized a conference, and that is regarding the draft program. And one common question is, can I change my time slot? And the answer to that really is, please no, please do not. I know that the organizers would really appreciate not receiving those requests unless it is just the utmost emergency reason. There are a lot of factors that go into deciding the time slots and the placement of panels. So that's why we continually refer to it as a draft program, but it is not yet online because there may be a few things that change here and there. And then another question was the start time of the opening reception, and that is in the program, and that is unlikely to change. One thing that's a little bit different about this Hemingway conference than past conferences is sometimes we'll have the opening reception the night before the conference gets started, and then the conference kicks off the next day. This is a little bit different. Unless you go to the baseball game, which is happening the day before. The conference starts on the 20th in the morning at 8 a.m. We're having a reception for first-time attendees, and long-time attendees who get up early in the morning are welcome to come to that as well. And then we will have some opening remarks at 9:15 in the morning. And then we're going to have a full slate of programming. And then the opening reception, the social event celebrating the opening of the conference, that is happening in the evening of the first day on July 20th.
And specifically, it's at 5:30 in the evening on that Monday, July the 20th. So there is some sort of event every evening, and it starts out like this at the beautiful baseball game on the very first day preceding the actual conference, to make sure as many people as possible are already enticed to arrive and partake in all things Hemingway. Thank you.
Yeah, this conference is just it's going to hit the ground running. So, all right, we've got some questions.
Do you have the Q&A open? Do you see?
Yeah, we've got some questions in the Q&A. How do you register for ticketed events? So if you're registered for you do first of all need to be a member of the Hemingway Society. You need to register for the conference. Those are your first two orders of business. We are going to send an email and we are going to post it on the website, how to register for the ticketed events. And again, there's going to be 3 of those. The Sun Also Rises Centenary Celebration is free, but we would like for you to register just so we have a head count. And then the Penn Hemingway fundraiser / birthday party, that will be a separate ticket. And then the baseball game is a separate ticket. Hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. We have another question. Please repeat the Windsor Hotel reservation number. I think the conference hotel is the Chelsea Hotel, correct?
Yes.
Is there a specific reservation code that people should use when they call or go online to reserve their room?
There is. Chris, could you just take a quick peek at the slide and just read it out loud very slowly?
No problem. So the group code is IEH 0722226. I'll put it in the chat as well.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
All right. And then there's another question. How do you sign up for the final dinner of the conference? You don't have to sign up for that. Everyone is included. Everyone is invited. We're gonna celebrate the end of the conference all together. And I hope that everyone will stick around and see some of the excellent panels that are scheduled for Saturday and stick around for the final closing event. One of the wonderful things about the Hemingway conferences is that it is a full action-packed conference from start to finish. So there's no drifting off into the sunset. We will gather together for some great panels and then have a final closing banquet all together as well. And everyone is invited to that.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things that we can highlight is that it's also a combination of academic panels, creative panels, and workshops. So there will be hands-on elements as well. And Chris was proposing the yoga with Hemingway.
Oh, yeah.
We can even exercise not just the mind, but the body. Yeah, Zen with Hem is how she entitled that one.
That's right. We're gonna have yoga on
That's
Saturday.
it. That's it.
That'll be very fun. Let's see. I see a couple other questions. Oh goodness. Okay, so this is a hard question, and it brings up a couple of issues. For U.S. folks, a DUI charge, even an old one, may result in denial of entry to Canada. Now, this is a legal matter, and it is something that I have heard in the past. I do not know the answer to that question, and I would advise that you contact someone who will have that answer. I cannot promise that I'm going to give you correct information about that. You may be able to get advice about how you can enter Canada by air rather than by driving if you have a former DUI charge. And this is a good time to mention too, that you need to make sure that your passport is up to date. That means your passport needs to be valid for at least 6 weeks after the conference. And we did have some people learn that the hard way in the Spain conference, that they're serious about that, and you cannot travel on an expired or about to expire passport. So I don't know. We have a hugely international society. People are coming from different countries, different continents. The rules are going to be different based on where you're coming from. But I would just say, make sure that your passport is up to date. Make sure that you know whether or not you need a visa to enter Canada. And if you need letters in order to apply for your visa, we are happy to supply those, but just make sure you're in touch with us. And as for your own particular legal situation, if you have a DUI charge in the past, that's something where you're going to want to contact a lawyer or a government official to get the answer on that. Just scrolling to see if we have other questions.
There's
The
another
closing
one in the
reception.
Q&A. Another one in the Q&A.
Yeah, is there closing reception is the Friday night, so that will be, I may have misspoken and said Saturday. Let's see, that it'll be the 25th, which is that a Friday?
This place.
I'm double checking.
Yeah. No, it is the Saturday.
Saturday, okay,
Yeah, it is the
25th
Saturday,
is
July
Saturday night,
25th.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have a full, like you said, it's a very full program to the last day.
Yeah. And then the conference hotel, you can keep your reservation at the conference rate another day beyond that if you want to spend some extra time in Toronto seeing the sights.
Yeah, and maybe
so someone says in the chat that it might be 6 months, not 6 weeks on your passport. So yeah, again, don't take anything that I'm telling you as like legal, like official word. Like these are details that you should definitely check with your government websites and things like that. The general idea is you need to have an up-to-date passport in order to come to Canada. All right, and okay, let's see. Are there any other questions? I know one question that I've gotten from some people via email is, what do I have to do if I have been put on the program as a moderator? And so when you look at the conference program, you'll want to search for your name, because you'll see that you have very likely been assigned to moderate a panel. And So what you'll do is you will introduce your panelists with a short bio that they will provide you. And honestly, I feel like your biggest task as a moderator is not to worry about what your panelists are saying, but worry about the time and to keep time for people. And if people go over time, if they, get to their 15-minute mark, kind of flag at them. And if someone actually gets up to the 18 or the 20-minute mark, you really have to have the confidence to very politely tell that person to stop talking because people are flying into this conference from all the way from California, all the way from Korea. You don't want to travel thousands of miles and then have someone step on and steal your time. And so as a moderator, you can be the hero of your session by holding people to time. And I will just say, as presenters, just make sure you're not going to be that person that goes over time. Prepare your papers and read your papers out loud before you give it. And just make sure that you are sticking to the time period, which is about 15 minutes if you're on a four or more person roundtable, and an absolute maximum of 20 if you're on a 3-person panel. Because we want to leave time for Q&A. We want to leave time for the people who traveled to get to give their presentation as well.
Yeah, and maybe just one small thing to add, and you've put it beautifully, Verna, on how important this is to kind of be a little disciplined at these professional conferences, because it can be very upsetting for the last person on a panel who then has to rush and so on. So we will be sending out some information to some guidance for moderators so that all of these rules are also very clear. We typically do that with all of the conference that we are a part of. It's very, very helpful to have also for young members who are joining us for the first time. So thank you very much for all of that. And thank you, Verna, also for making the case around that.
We have another question that asks, how do I contact my moderator? So in the draft program, you'll see you'll see names and affiliations. And 9 times out of 10, you just Google their name and you're going to find them, because a lot of these people are either famous writers or they're academics or whatever. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can find them on their institutional website. But you can also, contact the conference organizers, and we can, put people in contact with each other, sharing emails.
Yeah, and what we often do is encourage the moderators to proactively get in touch with the members of their group to see if there are any updates to the bios. For example, we tend to put a package together of the bios that we've received. They go to the moderator along with a description of what some of the rules are. And then there is an opportunity to get in touch with each other. So, but always be proactive. There's nothing wrong with being proactive and simply asking.
Yeah, and I see another question about the draft program. Again, the program is not online yet because it hasn't been finalized. Once it is finalized, we will put it online. But one thing that you can do to make sure that you receive the draft program is make sure that you have registered for the conference and that you have confirmed your participation. And you can email the organizers and they can send you the PDF copy of the current draft of the program.
Yeah. And maybe just to echo that, at this point, it would just be important for everyone to say, yes, I want to attend this conference, and then make a commitment and become a member of the Hemingway Society and register for the conference. This gives us a very good sense as to who will be participating, and it kind of helps us organize all the better this conference as we move forward.
All right. We have another question. Is there a deadline to submit a draft of your presentation? So a couple things to say here. One is the program itself is pretty much set. I don't think there is any more room in the program for new submissions. But if you are looking to submit a draft of your program to your to the organizers, or a draft of your presentation to the organizers or to your moderator, to your fellow panelists. There's really no hard and fast deadline unless your moderator has communicated that to you directly. And some of them will, especially on the roundtables, the moderator will reach out to you and let you know when they need to see your draft so that they can kind of craft a response or some questions in advance. But, that's going to be kind of handled on a case-by-case basis.
And maybe just to add, at times there are late submissions and so on. And at times we also have people who are dropping out at the last minute. So there may be an easy opportunity. So if you have a wonderful idea, would like to be considered, there's nothing wrong with saying, here is my abstract, if I can be fitted at all into this conference, and we will definitely take that under advisement and see what we can do.
I have a question for the organizers. Do you have any recommendations on parking and transportation in Toronto?
Oh, good question. So parking can be expensive. And the Delta Chelsea will definitely have parking. I recall that some years ago, it was about $30 Canadian per night or for a full day. So we'll find out how much it is. And there is also parking in the area because it is very close to our university campus. There is additional parking out there around the residences and so on. So it shouldn't be a huge issue, but it's not an inexpensive venture. Being downtown with a car, that's all I would consider. Chris, you like driving. Anything to add on that front?
There's a lot that's pretty close to the Chelsea Hotel. It's not a big lot, but that one's roughly $24 during the day from around 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. And then there's a $10 additional fee on that one. That's at the intersection of Church and Granby. So I could put that in the chat as well. They also have access to the Eaton Center parking. That's the mall that's just down the street. That one, again, I think it's $26 for the day and then an additional $12 for overnight parking. That one's actually a pretty easy place to park just because of size. There's a lot of street parking around. That one, I would say, use your discretion. It's not always the easiest to do.
And there's public transportation and Uber and stuff as well.
Yes.
So
yes.
We're actually about a 2-minute walk from the Chelsea Hotel to College Park Station. So that'll connect us everywhere.
And that's one of the beautiful things about the Chelsea Hotel. It really is firmly downtown and you can easily walk anywhere. You're very close as well to the subway and can just travel anywhere in the city very easily and very quickly. So that's the good thing about the downtown location.
Okay, and to get from the airport to the hotel, what would you recommend people do?
So excellent question.
Sharon put a great suggestion in the chat. There's the transportation, the shuttle that takes you from the airport to the TTC.
Okay.
Yes, the Pearson Airport. It's the Pearson Express. It's not very expensive. And within 25 minutes, you are from Pearson downtown. So it's very, very easy. You get out right at Union Station. From there, you can take another subway and get yourself to the Delta Chelsea. So it's really, really, really easy. We also have a note on that on the website under travel. So when you go book your trip, and then click on that, go past the hotel information, scroll down, you will find that information, including how to get from the airport to downtown.
Okay, great. So we're a little past 5:30, so I think we should start wrapping up. I just want to say that if you still have questions, please feel free to send the organizers an email. I'm sure they'll be happy to get back to you. I'm happy to get back to you. If you want to email me directly, that is fine. And I would also say that It would be wonderful if you could share information about the conference with your friends and colleagues and invite people to join us. We are, if you've never, I see a lot of familiar names here in our attendees today, but if you've been to a Hemingway Society conference, then you know how interdisciplinary and fun it is. And so if you know someone who's just maybe they're not an academic, they're just a Hemingway fan, they're a creative writer, welcome these folks to join us at the conference. Especially encourage grad students that you're working with to join us at this conference. I think we're going to have a really good time. So we'll be sending out some updates very soon about just a reminder about registration and about the ticketed events. We're going to post this webinar online, and so we will share that to our social media account and on our main website and in our YouTube channel. And so just share this information with your friends and colleagues and encourage them to come along, because we're going to have a really good time, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I just want to thank the conference organizers once again for all of the work that you have put into this, and also thank Deborah and Sharon and John and Suzanne as well for helping to put this webinar together today. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all in Toronto in July.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you again soon.